It is not by accident that you are here, and what I speak is not meant as mere philosophy but as a calling. I summon you into the mirror of your own essence. For the empath, that rare and luminous being, is not born simply to feel emotions. No, something ancient carved you to carry what others could not. You did not choose this role, you were shaped for it. And now you must understand why. Let me speak a truth so unsettling that even the most awakened among you may hesitate to face it: your light is being consumed in silence. This is not symbolism. This is reality. You, the empath, trained through suffering to shine in places of shadow, unknowingly extend your brilliance as an invitation. And those who cannot create light of their own, come to you. Not every shadow seeks to destroy, but some, in their hunger, come only to feed, quietly, endlessly, parasitically. This is what I call psychic vampirism, the secret draining of the soul's energy. You have felt it, haven't you? That weariness after conversations that seemed harmless. That strange depletion after giving yourself to someone who never truly asked, yet always expected. That crawling sensation that you are never fully alone in your own body, that perhaps some of your emotions are not even yours. These are not overreactions. They are signals. They are your unconscious whispering that something is feeding upon your essence. To see this more clearly, we must step into the world of symbols and dreams, for the unconscious often reveals truths there that waking life keeps hidden. I once listened to a woman, an empath, who dreamed she was a golden bird trapped inside a glass dome. Around her circled black crows, patient and watchful. Each time she sang, the dome cracked slightly, and the crows drank from the light that leaked through. She awoke weeping, unable to explain why. Do you see the image? The empath, in her gift of song and expression, allows her inner light to spill out. The crows, symbols of hunger and shadow, are not evil, but they are starving. They drink from the fractures created whenever she shines too freely. The dome itself is her fragile boundary, her faint attempt at protection. This is the great mistake of the empath, believing that openness is the same as love. But love without form is not divine, it is dissolution. When you say yes to everything, when you hold every sorrow, when you merge with others without discernment, you cease to be love itself. You become food. And here lies an even darker truth: your own shadow is often complicit in this cycle. That part of you that believes you must be useful in order to be worthy, it delivers you to the feeders. That child within you who grew up in chaos and learned to keep peace by absorbing everyone's moods, he leads you back to the takers. That neglected part of you, who once discovered that tuning into others gave her an identity, will hand you over again and again, just to avoid the terror of feeling worthless. Thus the cycle continues, not by force, but by unconscious agreement. But let us go deeper still. What is this light I speak of? It is not mere kindness, not politeness, not even simple goodwill. It is something older, something sacred. It is what I call the numinous, the radiant pulse of the soul that longs to take shape in the world. When the empath shines in authenticity, not as performance, but as truth, what radiates is not just personality. It is the soul's instinct to unify, to heal, to reveal hidden meaning. Yet here lies the danger: to those who lack access to their own light, yours is intoxicating. To the fragmented, your presence feels like salvation. To the manipulator, the abuser, the narcissist, your light is not a person, but a resource. Something to tap into, something to control, something to drain. And they will not arrive with claws and fangs. No, they will come with stories of helplessness. With flattery disguised as intimacy. With crises disguised as affection. They will whisper, "I cannot do this without you." And you will believe them. Why? Because your deepest wound is abandonment by the sacred. Most empaths are children who felt everything too deeply. Children who sensed the unspoken. Children who became emotional translators for their parents. Children who learned to anticipate moods like sailors read the waves, always adjusting, always bracing, always responsible for preventing the storm. That child grew into you. A body larger, yes, but still carrying the same survival script. Still scanning. Still overfunctioning. Still convinced that if you give enough, you will be kept. That if you sacrifice quietly, you will finally be seen. But this is the most ancient betrayal: the more you give from emptiness, the more you are drained. And the more you are drained, the more you confuse depletion for purpose. You must understand, your gift is not your sacrifice. Your sensitivity is not meant for martyrdom. Your intuition is not a leash for others to pull. If you keep pouring into those who cannot hold it, you are not being noble. You are being consumed. And if this truth unsettles you, let it. It should. Because until you recognize that your light is not an infinite fountain, you will keep drawing the same kind of people into your life, those who never learn to shine for themselves. You will keep choosing partners who crave your empathy but reject your truth. You will keep befriending the broken who idolize you at first, only to resent you later. You will keep mothering the immature who praise your magic until they drain you dry, then blame you for their thirst. You will call this love, but in reality, it is possession. Understand this clearly: you are being possessed, not by demons, but by old archetypes of unworthiness and sacrifice that have colonized your psyche. These patterns feed on your very sense of identity. The ego of the empath often hides behind illusion. She believes she is above shadow because she feels more deeply. She imagines that because she suffers more, she loves more. But this is deception. The true shadow of the empath is the need to be needed, even if it means dissolving in the process. This is why you allow yourself to be leeched. Not because you are weak, but because you confuse usefulness with lovability. You permit the feeders, the takers, the manipulators to enter not just your life, but your very soul, because a part of you still fears being invisible without them. But hear this: they only enter through the doors you leave open. I do not say this to shame you, but to awaken you. For you are not only the light, you are also the guardian of that light. And the time has come to decide: will you continue leaking your essence in hopes of being loved, or will you finally claim your own darkness and rise as protector of what is sacred within you? You may not realize it yet, but the greatest threat to the empath is not the narcissist, not the manipulator, not the chaotic lover. The true danger lies within you, or rather, within the version of you that still believes suffering is the same as sanctity. The part of you that thinks exhaustion proves your worth. The shadow that whispers, you are only valuable when you are being drained. I have seen this countless times. The woman who weeps because no one truly sees her, but when asked what she needs, she cannot answer. She only carries a catalogue of what everyone else requires. She speaks fluently of their despair, but she is mute when it comes to her own. This is not empathy. This is self-abandonment disguised as care. Your light, when left unguarded, becomes currency for others to spend. And over time, you forget it was ever yours. The unconscious does not distinguish between helper and hostage, it only repeats patterns. And when you overgive, overfeel, overextend, the psyche assumes this depletion must be your purpose. But in truth, you are burning your soul to keep others warm. At the core of the empath lies the ancient archetype of the wounded healer. Think of Chiron, the centaur of myth, who could heal all wounds except his own. His pain made him wise, yet it also condemned him to loneliness. So it is with the empath, brilliant at understanding the fractures in others, but blind to the cracks within. Why? Because facing your own wound means turning the light inward, discovering the depth of your unmet needs, your buried grief, your unspoken rage. It is easier to mend others than to sit with the child inside you who still believes love must be earned. But you cannot heal yourself through projection. You cannot save your father by loving another broken man. You cannot redeem your mother by rescuing wounded friends. You cannot rewrite your childhood by offering compassion to those who cannot meet you. Healing begins only when you stop abandoning yourself for the sake of belonging. Empathy is sacred, yes, but sacred things must be protected. In the temples of old, only the high priest or priestess could enter the inner sanctum. Why? Not because the sacred was dangerous, but because the uninitiated were not worthy to touch what they could not understand. You, dear empath, have lived without gatekeepers. You allow anyone into your sanctum, anyone who looks sad, anyone who flatters you, anyone who carries need. You mistake openness for enlightenment. But true spiritual maturity is not without boundaries, it is rooted in discernment. Discernment is the lost virtue of the empath. The ability to feel yet still say no. To witness another's pain but not absorb it. To hold space for someone without dissolving in their storm. This is what separates the healer from the hostage. The modern world celebrates the empath as though it were an identity badge, a fashionable label. But I tell you this truth, many who call themselves empaths are actually emotionally entangled. They confuse intuition with hypervigilance. They confuse compassion with codependency. They confuse endless giving with holiness. You must be willing to face this possibility, that your gift is entangled with your wound. That your ability to sense others may not be purely divine, but the residue of a childhood spent scanning for danger. This is not said to dismiss your gift, but to free it. When you separate your empathy from your trauma, your light becomes steady. It no longer flickers in the winds of other people's chaos. It becomes a beacon, not a buffet. Let us return again to the language of dreams. One woman dreamt that she lived in a house with no doors, only windows. People entered freely, some took her furniture, some wandered through her kitchen, and one even stepped into her bedroom to whisper, "You do not deserve privacy." She tried to speak, but no sound came. Only tears. When she awoke, she said, "I felt like a ghost in my own home." Do you see the image? The house is the psyche of the empath without boundaries. A place where all are welcomed, but none are filtered. A place where the soul is accessible to everyone, yet defended by no one. Over time, the self begins to fade. The voice grows silent. Needs vanish. You become invisible in your own life. To reclaim your light, you must become the architect of that house. You must build doors, walls, locks. You must decide who enters and who remains outside. And above all, you must allow yourself to live there, fully, loudly. Not as a caretaker of other people's storms, but as a sovereign being with choice. Here lies the sacred paradox: when you shield your light, it shines brighter. When you refuse to be drained, your energy grows stronger. When you no longer crave being needed, your gift sharpens, unburdened by martyrdom. For light, when preserved, does not fade, it becomes revelation. And know this, those who have fed upon you will resist this change. They will say you are selfish, that you are cold, that you have changed. They will call you cruel for finally loving yourself. Let them. Their discomfort is not your burden. It is proof that the balance of power has shifted. Hear this warning clearly: if you do not break the pattern will consume you. One day, the empath who never says no awakens bitter, hardened, and unrecognizable. She becomes what she once pitied: closed, resentful, withdrawn. Not because she was born cold, but because her light was never meant to be given endlessly without renewal. I do not want this fate for you. I want you radiant, not drained. I want you wise, not wounded. I want your light to be an offering, not a sacrifice. But to do this, you must gather the pieces of yourself you have scattered into others. The laughter you surrendered to comfort someone else. The peace you gave away to avoid conflict. The dreams you buried so another could feel important. Call them back. All of them. You are not a sponge for absorbing pain. You are not a mirror to reflect others' emptiness. You are not a remedy for wounds that are not yours. You are a soul. And souls were never meant to be consumed. Now you begin to see it, do you not? The path of the empath is sacred, yet perilous. Light, by its very nature, casts shadows. And you, beloved empath, are both illuminated and lost, both radiant and vulnerable. This is not an insult to your gift. It is a reckoning with its cost. Your empathy is more than a function of the nervous system, it is a spiritual mechanism, a bridge between the personal and the collective, between the conscious and the unseen. You are attuned, often against your will, to sorrows that most ignore. This is why people feel safe around you, why they confess too much, why they weep in your presence. But how long can one carry what was never theirs to bear? Nature itself demands balance. Rivers return to the ocean, trees exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide, archetypes require reciprocity. Yet when the empath gives endlessly without return, psychic equilibrium breaks. And where imbalance exists, the psyche seeks compensation, sometimes through illness. Fatigue, anxiety, migraines, digestive pain, these are not always biological accidents. They are cries from the neglected self, demanding you stop leaking your essence into other people's wounds. When you finally reclaim your boundaries, these ailments often ease. Because the psyche, when chronically violated, will enforce protection by force if you will not do so consciously. This is your awakening, noticing the patterns, the friendships that are one-sided, the relationships built on your labor of love. You realize that people love your presence but rarely your personhood. This realization is brutal, it requires death of an old illusion, that being good will protect you. No. Your light exists not to prevent abandonment. It exists to illuminate truth, and truth is often uncomfortable. Empaths often recoil at the idea of protection. They fear it will feel cold, cruel, or selfish. But this is the voice of the wounded child, not the wisdom of the integrated self. Protection is not a wall, it is a filter. It does not close your heart, it decides who is worthy of touching it. Your light is sacred. Treat it with reverence, not arrogance. There are many rituals, energetic hygiene practices, and boundary exercises, but the most vital protection is internal. You must believe you are worth safeguarding. Until this belief is real, all other measures will be hollow. You may read books, attend workshops, quote boundaries, yet your energy will still leak through unconscious agreements. I will be who you need if you promise not to leave. If I heal you, maybe someone will finally heal me. If I make myself indispensable, perhaps I will no longer feel invisible. These are the true prisons, not the people, not the patterns. They are the unconscious scripts of your earliest abandonment, repeated over and over, in the hope of a different ending. But you are the ending. You are the one who must say, enough. Enough of carrying what is not yours. Enough of performing worthiness. Enough of bleeding so others may live. This is the moment to reclaim your throne, not as a queen of suffering, nor a king of sacrifice, but as sovereign of your own psychic kingdom. When your light remembers itself, it becomes fire. Fire cannot be fed upon, it burns through illusion, purifies wounds, illuminates the hidden. Rise, empath. Not as prey, but as flame. Something sacred happens when an empath stops begging for belonging. When the light, once dimmed by overgiving, turns inward, it begins to burn, not outward, but within. The fractured mirror of others' sorrow becomes whole as you finally see presence instead of pain. This is not the end of empathy. It is its transformation. What you once called love, holding others' suffering to feel needed, is replaced by a love that asks nothing in return. A love that radiates simply because it is your nature. This is the essence of divine empathy, fierce, luminous, sovereign. When your light no longer leaks, those who once fed on it will falter. Not because you are cruel, but because your energy is no longer available. They may call you selfish. They may try to trigger old reflexes of guilt and obligation. Let them. Their discomfort is proof that you are rewriting the old scripts. You are no longer bound by codependent contracts. Your empathy is no longer a sponge, a fixer, or a reservoir. You are a channel for transformation, a sacred river that flows, but never floods its banks. Why were you chosen to feel so deeply? Not as a curse, but as initiation. Empaths are forged in fire, childhood neglect, psychic overwhelm, ancestral wounds, but from that fire arises the instinct to unify what is divided. You are a bridgewalker, a carrier of meaning, a witness of opposites without collapse. But this strength comes only when you stop leaking your power. You must release the rescuer identity, grieve the self built on indispensability. This is death, the death of the false self. And in this death, your true self emerges, slowly, wildly, authentically. Here lies a peace unlike any other. Not the thrill of crisis or drama, but quiet, rooted, self-contained joy. Sit in solitude. Let the world support itself. Let the takers find their own wells. Let yourself simply be. The pulse of your soul grows subtle at first, then unmistakable. It guides you. Where to go, who to trust, what to accept, what to release. Your empathy is now a compass, not a martyrdom. This is your inheritance. Protect it. Bless it. Surround it with sacred structure. Give it the dignity of no. Not now. Not anymore. Love without boundaries is chaos. Empathy without discernment is self-abandonment. Return to yourself. Return to your light. Return to the stillness beneath giving. You are no one's savior. Yet still, divine, your light is now fire. Let it burn. Let it protect. Let it bless. Above all, let it belong to you.